Now I'm going to do dodge and burn. For those unfamiliar with the terminology or the technique called dodge and burn, it's basically painting light and shadow over the image to smooth out transitions between shadow and light. Not only big highlights and shadows, because this is really good for enhancing big highlights and make shadows deeper, but I also use it for skin work, like pixel level dodging and burning to smooth out skin and pores and wrinkles and hairs. One of the ways to do it is the 50% gray layer. We create a new layer by clicking on the layer icon, but first we are going to click Alt or Option in a Mac to display the option pop-up. So we click Alt or Option and the layer icon, and we are going to name this layer Dodge and Burn, D and B. Sorry, Spanish. D and B. And we're going to select the mode to be soft light. Now Photoshop automatically gives us the chance to fill this layer with a 50% gray, neutral gray. So we're going to click that because that's exactly what we want. And we're going to click OK. So now we have a 50% gray layer. Some people use an empty layer and they paint black and white over an empty layer, and it's exactly the same effect. If you select the mode for the empty layer to be soft light and then you paint black and white on it, then it's exactly the same effect. When I use the dodge and burn with a gray 50% gray layer, basically I do it because of how it's seen, and if I set it to normal mode I can see exactly what I was doing and get a complete gradient. So what do we do with this 50% gray layer? We paint with black to paint shadows and with white to create light. Let's use a regular brush, a soft brush. I'm going to make it really big for you to see it on the image. So the soft light on itself does nothing because it's a neutral gray. Now if you paint with white, it's going to lighten the image like this. If you paint with white, it makes the image lighter, and if you paint with black, it makes the image darker. Now we made a little flag. Since we don't want that flag, I'm going to start over. I'm gonna delete this layer. I'm gonna create a new one. Remember, Alt or Option click, we set the mode to soft light, and we select the 50% gray, and we start painting. Let's go in. So I can see this shadow here against the light, and it doesn't have a smooth transition. So I can paint white with a low opacity, maybe 15, 20. And with a small brush, I paint over the shadow with white to lighten the shadows over the gray layer. I'm gonna go a little bit closer. It's too high, the opacity is too high. Let me bring it down. So I paint the shadows with white, and the soft light gray layer, when painted white, makes the shadows lighter. In that way you can even out the skin without losing any texture or quality. This is a non-destructive way of editing. So if you paint with black, you darken light areas. If you paint with white, like I'm doing, you lighten dark areas. It's really time consuming, but it's completely and absolutely worth it. The results are very, very natural. I'm gonna make it a little softer by decreasing the opacity, and I'm going to keep dodging. And we can also paint black over the lights, like these little hairs. I can paint with black over the hairs to make them darker and blend with the around shadow better. So we keep all the texture, but by making the hair darker, we get a smoother result. So I first do it on the small points with a really big zoom, and then I zoom out and I use the same technique to paint shadows and highlights. But first, let's see how this looks. I'm gonna paint, there we go, see? And now it's smooth. And when you do that with the whole image, you end up with perfect transitions between shadow and light and a perfect skin, but with every bit of texture that you have in the beginning. It's very good for lightening eye bags or removing unwanted shadows. There, where you see a shadow you don't want, you simply paint with light over it, like this over here in the mouth. I tried to use the high pass, the inverted high pass, but the radio wasn't right, so this is another way to fix it. Painting with too much. There. So we paint with light and the shadow is gone. It's a very basic technique. You're just painting light where it was shadows, and that way you get a smooth result. I like the 50% gray layer because you can paint light and shadow in the same layer and it doesn't get confusing. It's always the same base technique. You're painting with light and shadow. Let's see before and after. The other way of doing it is creating a set of layers. I'm just gonna create a group, clicking on the group icon, and I'm gonna name this Dodge and Burn set. Inside this group, I'm going to create two main curve layers, curve adjustment layers. One for lighten, in which I'm going to lighten the middles. And I'm gonna call this curve lighten. Inside the group, I'm gonna create another adjustment curve in which I'm going to darken the middle point. It's just a regular curve with every other setting default, and darken the middle tones. I'm gonna call this darken. So now we have a darken curve and a lighten curve. We need to hide both of these curves by inverting the mask. Command in a Mac I or Control in a PC I. Or we could go to Image, Adjustments, Invert to invert the mask. And now we have exactly the same image as we did before, but we have a darken and lighten curve. This works exactly the same as the Dodge and Burn gray layer does, with the difference that we have lights and shadows in different layers. I'm gonna use white to paint on the darken curve to darken, and I'm gonna paint white on the mask to lighten. So we have highlights and shadows in different layers. Let's go back. I'm going to show you one more time. One curve for lighting dark spots is just a regular curve with the midtones lighten, and another curve for darkening light spots, it's a regular curve with the midtones darken. And we use each of these, one for darken light spots, like this skin in between the hair, and the other one is to lighten dark spots, like the shadow in the nose. And that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to use my Dodge and Burn set of layer to Dodge and Burn. I use them both. I'm going to explain later why I use the set better. Another thing that I do to help is on top of the Dodge and Burn set or the gray layer, I create a brightness and contrast adjustment layer where I decrease the brightness or increase the contrast, and another one to desaturate the image. A hue saturation adjustment to desaturate the image. Why is this? I'm gonna group these two. Just shift click them both and drag them to the group icon, and I'm gonna call this help because this is the help for the eyes. Because after a while of dodging and burning, your eyes start to hurt. When dodging and burning, the color can get in the way, can be distracted. So if you desaturate the image, you are only concerned with lights and shadows. The brightness and contrast adjustment is to make the dark and light spots even more obvious, so you can dodge and burn and find them easily. So this group is the eye help. Now I can use the set of layers or the gray layer. This is actually one of those layers that I create out of habit. It's not doing anything, so I'm gonna delete it. So anyway, I can use the Dodge and Burn set to dodge and burn, or I can use the gray layer to dodge and burn and just use the eye help as my eye help. Eye help. Let's call this eye help. If you're in a Mac, it actually sounds better because it's eye help. So we just disappointed 500,000 PC users, but why worry about them? They don't know what they are doing. Okay, so now I'm going to just start dodging and burning in the Dodge and Burn set, and I'm going to explain later why I usually choose the Dodge and Burn set to dodge and burn.